All right, everybody, welcome back to the Skeptic Fence Show. Tonight's guest is, and it's his second appearance here, is Dr. Robert M. Price, a.k.a. Bob. He likes to be called Bob. Bob, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing great. I believe I am hearing the echo now.
Yeah, you just got to turn the volume down.
Turn what? I'm sorry, I'm so imbecilic with this.
On the bottom left of the screen.
On the lower left of the screen, at the very bottom of the... There you go. You might have it now. No?
He's going to edit this out.
Yeah. Guys, take two.
Take two. Let's go. He's going to edit this out.
We're good now.
I swear he's going to edit this one out.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to edit this out. Don't worry about it. That being said...
Yeah, that being said, he never will.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Skeptic Fence Show. This is his second appearance here on the Skeptic Fence Show. Dr. Robert M. Price, our guest tonight, a.k.a. Bob. He likes to be called Bob. Bob, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Terrific. Yeah, now that I've gotten over my technophobia for the moment, doing great.
Awesome. Well, it's good to have you on the show again. And we have a few questions lined up. And we have actually probably like 2 or 3 viewer submissions that I'm going to ask you. And then I think Paul here has a little bio he's going to go over real quick. So, all right. Go ahead, Paul. Have at it.
Yeah, a short little bio. We have Robert M. Price is an American theologian and writer. He teaches philosophy and religion at the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary, is a professor of biblical criticism at the Center for Inquiry Institute, and the author of a number of books on theology and the historicity of Jesus, including Deconstructing Jesus, The Reason-Driven Life, Jesus is Dead, Inerrant the Wind, The Evangelical Crisis in Biblical Authority, The Case Against the Case for Christ, and The Amazing Colossal Apostle. That's always pretty funny. The Search for the Historical Paul. Price is a fellow of the Jesus Seminar, a group of 150 writers and scholars who study the historicity of Jesus, the organizer of a web community for those interested in the history of Christianity, and sits on the advisory board of the Secular Student Alliance. He is a religious skeptic, especially of Orthodox Christian beliefs, occasionally describing himself as a Christian atheist. He is known in particular for his skepticism about the existence of Jesus as a historical figure, arguing in 2009 that Jesus may have existed, but unless someone delivers his diary or his skeleton, we'll never know.
Thank you, Paul. Hey, Bob, you have anything to add to that, or is that pretty accurate, or any edits there?
Except some of these things are a little outdated. Not your fault, but the Center for Inquiry Institute, I'm not even sure if that exists as a phantom anymore. It's sort of on paper. I haven't been at any event for that in a long time. But I'd say everything else is pretty much up to snuff.
Nice, and I love your figures in the background, man. I'm like, last time you only had a few on the show. Now you have all these figures in the background. Most of them look like Star Wars, huh? No,
actually, I don't think there are Star Wars here. I've got a Darth Vader or two upstairs, but I've got 1950 Starman, the Sentry, the Plutonian, and various other Superman clones up there. But I've got whole rooms full of them upstairs.
Nice. My first question I want to ask you is, it's your new book coming out in the spring, like we were just talking about off air. Blaming Jesus for Jehovah. Give us a little review, or what we can expect, and what questions you pondered making this book.
In a way, it zeroes in on implications of the Trinity doctrine, and in this book, I take it kind of for the sake of argument that, the Bible teaches the deity of Christ, the Trinity, and Jesus said all the stuff attributed to him. Let's just take it the way believers do, then look at the implications that nobody seems to look at, and mainly that if you believe in the Trinity, it's not so easy to divide off Jesus in the New Testament from the angry Jehovah of the Old, because people tend to be Marcionites, like this 2nd century version of Christianity that said that Jesus was the son of a completely different deity than the angry Old Testament God. And so that kind of comes out to a good cop, bad cop thing, and they figure, well, the Old Testament's over with, and we can just forget about all these atrocities and so on. Well, not if you
Not no.
insist on identifying Jesus with that God. And then you've got to say, well, I guess he's implicated in that. And then once you get into the New Testament and the hell business, well, forget it. That's much worse than genocide. And so I kind of go into these strange contradictions that ultimately render the whole thing incoherent. It's not clear that there is a message of salvation or of God's love at all, since the Bible speaks out of the other side of its mouth on the same topics.
Wow.
Wow, dude, that was an earful.
That was great.
Now I'm going to buy the book. That's a definite.
Wait,
Especially when you said the
Awesome.
Trinity and you go from what the believers say to what you actually research or what you have research. Yeah, of course. I want to know that because that's actually the foundation of Christianity for the most part. And just like you want to know that. So go ahead.
I've
TJ.
just got to point out that this little bit started with like the figurines you have on the sill.
Yes, it did.
That's epic.
That's great because you said there was there's a lot of contradictions, of course, but it just I can't fathom why somebody would say, well, you know what, we're not against homosexuality, we're not against this, we're not against that, but okay, we're okay with the Ten Commandments. It's just incredible cherry picking when it comes to the Bible. It's like people pick it to adhere to their own, I guess, supposed moral standards, but when they come up with their own moral standards, it really doesn't really have to do with the Bible. It comes down to, I believe, a universal morality. So that's my own perspective, by the way.
It's the same way with the Constitution when you really think about it.
True.
They like to pick and choose which amendments they like to call out and which ones to ignore. And
True.
you know,
True.
it's a cherry picking is a thing that a lot of people do, but man, a lot of Christians and creationists have like perfected it.
Bob, what other works do you have going on right now? So give people a little background on what's going on right now with you.
I'm working on a larger book called Holy Fable, The Bible Undistorted by Faith. And the idea of that one is to say that the Bible is an ancient book with all the flaws you would expect. It's surprising how much wisdom it does have, but that doesn't give us any right to ignore the awful barbaric stuff that everybody took for granted at the time. The Bible is not Mein Kampf, and people needn't burn it. But on the other hand, these awful things in it should serve to should suffice to explode any idea that this is the revelation from God and we need to obey everything in it. And just like one of you said a moment ago, in fact, even if you're a fundamentalist, you're ultimately going to have to just use your best judgment, because even if you said the Bible was an infallible book from God, there's just all kinds of things it never addresses, especially many things that have arisen since that time. And if it's up to you to rely on reason or the Spirit or whatever, then why not eliminate the middleman and just use your brain from the word go? And
Absolutely.
I'm trying to show that.
No, absolutely. Nail on the head. Absolutely. All right, we're gonna get away from this, and I gotta, since it's the season, holiday season here, Christmas season, however you support it, or since we were in a Christmas season, what do you know about the so-called birth of Jesus? Was he born on December 25th? When was the first celebration of the nativity scene? Historical point of view, of course. What evidence do we have on this issue, or if there is any?
Well, I don't believe there really is any historical evidence in the New Testament. The Gospels of Matthew and Luke both contain nativity stories, and this time of year we generally hear a kind of mashed up version of details from both, though they don't really fit together. In my recent book, Killing History, Jesus in the No Spin Zone, I show how Bill O'Reilly and Mark Regard, they will give you a chapter on the birth of Jesus, and it's just like you say, off of a menu, one from column A, one from column B, and it doesn't fit together. Like in Matthew, you got the wise men coming to the home of Joseph and Mary in Bethlehem, where Jesus was born 2 years earlier. In Luke, you've got Mary and Joseph going from their home in Nazareth to Bethlehem just long enough for Jesus to be born, and there are no wise men, they're the shepherds, and you just can't get it together. They were written in ignorance of one another. and each is so beset with problems that there's no way either one of them is accurate. I mean, you can imagine maybe one is and the other is fanciful, but no, each is just so deeply flawed. The idea of celebrating the birth of Jesus seems to have come about in the 4th century AD, the 300s. And before that, at least from the little evidence we have, Christians in Egypt, I think some of them did, some Gnostic Christians did celebrate Epiphany on January 6th, which was originally a celebration of the baptism of Jesus in the Jordan by John the Baptist. And when the heavenly voice says to him, "You are my son." Well, this implies that this was the nativity because they believed that the Christ was the spirit that Jesus channeled. They didn't believe that Jesus, as the Son of God, was born in a stable. Jesus was born someplace, the
Cave or something like that, they said.
What's
No,
that?
it's like a cave or something. I watched a documentary where a lot of theologians thought that Jesus was actually born in sort of a cave area.
Yeah, that it depends on what you think is meant in Luke,
Correct.
where it says he was born in a manger. You could also translate that born on the open ground. The idea of the
Yeah.
cave comes from Saint Jerome, who lived in this cave. What legend said was the cave for a while when he was in Palestine. But there's really nothing of real evidence to go on. The Christmas as the December 25th date came about only after the Council of Nicaea, when they made official the doctrine that Jesus was God born on earth as a man. Once that happened, the resurrection or the baptism, both of those had been associated with a kind of spiritual birth of Jesus. But now, no, that's out. Jesus was born as an infant.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because that's when the incarnation happens. When would that have been? Well, nobody remembered. And in fact, I think that's because there never was any such event. But even if there was, nobody remembered. And so apparently what they did was to say, well, look, everybody's celebrating December 25th, the holiday of Brumalia, the rebirth of Mithras, the sun god. He was the official deity at the time, the chief one of the Roman Empire. So why not just take that date? I guess there's one chance in 365 it might be, but they didn't necessarily mean this is when he was born. I think Tertullian did, perhaps, but it's just like let's celebrate it, like President's Day. Let's just pick a day to celebrate.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter much. And that's worth pointing out from the skeptical side, too, because some say, look at this, Jesus is born on December 25th, so was Horus, so was this one and that one.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but that's almost irrelevant because that's much further along. That's not from the New Testament period. That's a later addition to the whole thing.
Correct. Man, well said. Jeez. I think you are a wealth of knowledge there, sir.
Or in colloquial
Yeah.
terms, in bag.
My last question I have, and I'll get to
That's
viewer
TJ.
submissions. I do have 2 or 3 viewer submissions. I'm going to have my last question here. I'm going to move it over to TJ, Drew, and Paul, and maybe we'll do the viewer submissions if we have time. We'll do that. So since we're a little behind here. My last question here is a really easy question is, are you a Jesus mythicist? I forget. I think you adhere to that, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's a dogma and that you believe it and it can be proven, but it seems to me the most likely of the options. That's as far as I'd go. So yeah, I defend it, but I admit there's no way to know.
Okay. Now, we had Bart Ehrman on the show, and he is, of course, not that. He believes Jesus existed, but not in the divine sense. So, and he actually gave you a nice, I don't know if you've seen that interview, but he actually gave you props on that. He's like, oh, yeah, me and Dr. Price, yeah, we talk about it, this and that. He goes, we don't hate each other. We just disagree. It's fine. He's a great guy, so.
Yes, he's a fine fellow.
So, so what's your, I guess, why do you hold that position of mythicism or Jesus mythicism?
Well, I guess there's first the fact that his life in the Gospels corresponds exactly to the mythic hero archetype, the kind of stories you read about Oedipus, Moses, Dionysus, the Buddha, Krishna, etc. There are these recurring features, not all of them in every one of these figures, but the pattern is there. You got a divine annunciation, this savior or incarnation, whatever, will be born, and then it happens with some kind of a miraculous conception. Then when he's a youth, he shows up other healers and so on, like Apollonius of Tyana did, and others.
Oh, need a
There's
circle drawer, yeah.
yeah, and it's like as a kid, he's Josephus said this about himself. He's smarter than all the adults, and then he it may have an initiation rite like the baptism or a similar thing with Zoroaster, and he engages a ministry where he casts out demons and heals people, and perhaps even more spectacular things. Eventually, he is abandoned by his fans and is killed, often on top of a hill. And then the location of his body is uncertain, but either he appears after death or just ascends into heaven or ascends and then appears. And this stuff happens again and again, especially around the Mediterranean, but even farther afield. So that was the first thing that got me going about this. And the second one was a study I did of a lot of people who'd already explored the question of how much of the New Testament narrative looks like rewrites from the Greek version of the Old Testament. And I was really shocked to see that you could make a very good argument for virtually every story in the Gospels and the book of Acts as being rewritten, sometimes verbatim, from the Old Testament. And I think, well, what's left? I mean, if there might have been a Jesus, but if so, he's long lost behind the stained glass curtain.
Wow, you just yeah, I got to think about that because you just said it seems like a lot of the gods were rewritten. I'm like that does make a little sense to me. So
No,
thank you very much.
you gotta give him some time. He's from New Jersey.
I am from New Jersey, South Jersey, so yeah, it takes me a little time, but yeah, it is what it is.
Me too. I spent about.
That's right. You're from Jersey. So I forgot about that. Yeah.
I love New Jersey.
See, Dr. Robin and Price loves New Jersey. Oh, yes. Screw you, TJ.
Hey man, my girlfriend loves Jersey Shore. There's no difference, all right.
I'm a big Eagles fan.
Yes. Eagles, EAGLES. All right,
oh
cool.
God! All right.
I know. I'm gonna pass you over to TJ, Drew, then
Paul. Ask him
if
he ever got one of those commemorative shirts for New Jersey. Take her where it smells, or sorry, kiss her where it smells. Take her to New Jersey. Hi.
Oh jeez. Oh, Paul.
Never heard that.
Ear divide. But I'm gonna pass you over to TJ, then we'll go to Drew to Paul, and then I'll get viewer submission questions. So let's have at it. Go ahead, TJ.
All right, Bob. I'm known for asking like the really hard-hitting questions on this show, like the deep down ones that really make you think. So, start you off here. Who would win in a triple cage match? Like, would it be Zeus, Thor, or Jesus? You think lightning would strike for Zeus and he'd hammer Thor and crucify Jesus?
Well, Zeus and Thor are practically the same deity, both warrior storm gods. Jesus is supposed to be the incarnation of Jehovah, who is again the same thing. The warrior god who fires the lightning bolts as his arrows from the rainbow and so on. So ultimately, it's really kind of I would think, a draw.
It's a draw.
Really?
See that?
I mean, they're all different versions of the same god.
But the Christians are not going to be very happy about that.
I don't think you understand how good of an answer that is.
It is.
What about
That was an awesome answer.
What your personal opinion? Which god do you like more to win? Like,
Yeah, who would you support? Yeah.
Who would you put your money on?
You're like, yeah, I want Thor to kick his ass.
Yeah,
Just
I guess
personal like that.
sympathies would be with the son of Odin.
Odin.
Yes.
Paul's like, yes.
Jesus Christ, Paul! What
Paul,
the hell is with your
crackle.
microphone?
I don't know. What, is it really bad tonight?
No, it's all right.
Really bad.
Now it is. When you
It's
scream.
just when you ginger directly into it.
Yeah,
Ginger.
you have to. You turn the ginger down a little. Can you do that?
The ginger volume.
Not turn the ginger. What?
right, TJ. Next.
All right,
Question.
next question. Do you have a favorite mythical god or religion or specific belief that you find, I guess, entertaining? And after that, do you have a least favorite or one that you find most detrimental to society?
I suppose God's demanding sacrifices seems primitive in more than one way, both the bloodiness of it and the, though I don't want to be a hypocrite, I eat meat. I mean, but the idea of human sacrifice, religious war, that seems very ugly and undermines anything uh, good to be said about God. Of course, the hell thing is what absolutely vitiates it. That anybody could have done anything bad enough to be sent to an eternity of torture. That just is monstrous and makes a god into a devil. I suppose my favorite positive myth would be that of Prometheus, who is willing to be a benefactor of the human race and share knowledge, even though it costs him, and he basically gets crucified as a result. So I guess Prometheus would be my favorite.
An excellent answer.
It was actually.
Uh, we had a segment on Bill O'Reilly and his war on Christmas. How do you feel about that? And do you celebrate Christmas as a non-believer?
Oh yeah, got my Christmas tree with the lights right just a few yards away from me
There
here.
we go.
I got the Christmas albums that we play. If I have to give up celebrating Christmas to be an atheist, I'm out of here.
Exactly.
I hear you. Yes.
I mean, I know Jews, I know of Buddhists that celebrate Christmas. Jesus is part of it, but Mithras was before him.
Correct.
To me, it has to do. I mean, I'm not. I don't hate any of that stuff. I'm not a nut. But to me, I have to admit, Santa Claus and Ebenezer Scrooge are more close to my heart. But the whole thing's a cultural thing. And I don't like this scorched earth policy that every vestige of religion has to be hated and destroyed, like the ones I called the Westboro atheists seem to think. So Christmas is great.
I love that term.
Nice. Of course you love Santa. Look at that beard.
Yeah, exactly. By the way,
I
I've been
love
a
that
good
beard.
boy. I've been a good boy this year, unless you want me to be naughty.
TJ, any more
All right.
questions or no?
The price is right, Bob.
He said he was going to do that tonight.
Okay.
He did.
so-
he did.
so,
he did,
yeah.
Bob. He did.
Totally off topic. Since, as a member of a panel of 5 white guys, how exactly do you feel about Ferguson and feminism?
Oh.
Wow.
Well,
Heavy-duty
feminism, I find it highly annoying, and this despite the fact that it is my certain conviction that women are at least the equal of men and are, in all probability, superior and more evolved than us ape-like cousins of women. And yet I repudiate feminism because it seems to be synonymous with being a member of the Democratic Party, being pro-abortion, and being in favor of politically correct speech codes. I want nothing to do with that, and which makes me think feminism isn't really about what it's supposed to be about. With Ferguson, I think we have a very dangerous situation in that the way Al Sharpton and his buddies Obama and Holder are treating this, to say nothing of the rioters or the undocumented shoppers. I think that these people.
Did you just call looters undocumented shoppers?
Yeah, I stole that from a couple of people.
That's
though.
good.
That
That's
is nice.
hilarious, dude.
You've got a legal system in place. The grand jury looks at the evidence and they say this guy doesn't seem to have done anything. I mean, it's too bad the thug died, but it's too bad when anybody dies. But the officer doesn't seem to be guilty of anything. Well, the mob thinks differently, and evidence be damned. It's just the same kind of thing with creationists. So don't confuse me with the facts. And so if the mob has to be satisfied and they start doing tantrums where they burn the city down, and the president and the media and others support this, we are in huge trouble. This is the tip of a terrible iceberg.
Yeah, I honestly think that we have already gone past the tipping point of something like yeah, obviously bad things happen on a daily basis, but I mean, like,
You got people that take
I think we're
advantage of
past
that
the tipping
situation
point
too.
of shit getting real. I'm not talking about civil war or anything, but I'm talking about something that'll happen that is so, blows everybody's mind so much that they'll be like, okay, we got to change this shit. But unless something like that happens, which sounds terrible, but it sounds terrible to say that, like, that's what has to happen for it to change. But imagine if something like that doesn't happen and it just goes on like this, getting worse and worse. I mean, it's just like pent up aggression that, I don't know. I'm one of those people where I just let it out and it kind of just gets it off my chest. And
Yeah.
I don't keep it inside and let it get out of control. And I'm afraid that if you just keep it inside as a country or as a society, then when you do blow up, it gets like terribly out of control.
Yeah.
This kind of thing tending toward anarchy is what prompts this rubber band reaction, and you get some sort of totalitarianism instead. And it's this pendulum swing. And I love the movie Starship Troopers. And
I
especially,
love that movie too.
there's this astounding. I was out at the Jesus seminar right after this happened, and Paul Verhoeven, who directed that movie, is a fellow of the seminar. And I said, he was there, and I said, I think Paul's movie is the perfect parable for what has just happened. Civilization is in danger, and while we're fiddling while Rome burns. And it seems to me we have a decadent, flaccid, corrupt civilization that's taken up with navel gazing. Like, should you have a baseball team named the Braves, for Pete's sake? I mean, that's important. It's when the woman with the big butt.
Quartet. By the way, I'm a huge fan of the Seminoles.
Oh yeah, that's incorrect.
Yeah, well, but except for that, the university actually donates a lot of money to the Seminole community, and so the Seminoles actually love Florida State very much. It's kind of a weird, ironic thing. You'll see them protesting in favor of them using the Seminoles thing because they do it respectively. They name their mascot after an actual Seminole chief and all that stuff. So they do it, I guess, respectively. But I can totally understand how those kind of issues, I have to admit, if my choices were listen to Louis Gohmert or look at Kim Kardashian's ass, I'll be jerking off in no time.
Wow.
And it would probably be to Louis Gohmert.
All right, thanks, TJ. Drew, you got a couple questions, and we'll go to Paul.
Yeah, I do. I didn't know we were going to go into the realm of politics here. I wanted to take it back a little more to maybe not mythicism, but it might even be a little more personal here. I wanted to know what your experience was with believers that you've meet in life and talked to who can't understand how someone who knows so much about the religion and doesn't believe it.
Well, I recognize that they believe it despite facts and evidence. Even if they claim to be apologists who are dealing with evidence, it's pretty clear that they just cannot see what they're doing. And so if I'm on a debating platform with one of them, I will try to show on the basis of the common ground we do have, both of us saying we need to look at the evidence of the Bible. We mustn't explain it away. We mustn't come up with weird, non-literal interpretations to protect our beliefs. We say we want to take a look at it fair and square. Okay, well, if we do that, let me tell you about the principle of analogy. There's no place for miracles simply by virtue of methodology. Don't you see that? But that's a kind of a game, and I don't view the people I'm debating as some kind of enemies, and I make sure they know that. I've become friends with some of them. I think I would be a terrible fanatic if I were to think, well, those no good fundies, the damn believers and all that. I'm supposed to believe that this is not as important as they think, so I need to put my money where my mouth is and just treat other people as people regardless of what they believe. So I tend to get along with them real well, and in personal interaction I try to avoid the topic. If anything, it's just going to result in unpleasantness.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
And I was curious. Like, I mean, do you get that a lot? Does that happen a lot? Because they're like, wow, you know so much about this when it comes up. Just the idea that you just don't believe. I mean, does that happen a lot?
Not a lot, but then again, I don't have, I'm kind of a recluse. I guess there's not a lot of people. I mean, I'm surrounded by good Christian folks in my town, and they're fine with me. I wouldn't want to pick a fight with them, but nobody ever really confronts me. The closest I come to that is in the question and answer periods after debates, where audience members will ask with a certain sense of curious mystification, what do I think about this and that? And from my standpoint, what's the meaning of life, and if there's no life after death, and so forth. And I've been just so happy over the years to see that these people have sincere questions, even if they're fundamentalists. There's a real curiosity. They're not just trying to find an opening to refute me. I was pessimistic about that, but people have pleasantly surprised me.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. More interested in actual dialogue than just winning an argument.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What would you say to a Christian? I asked this of one of our previous guests. What would you say to a Christian who it says they don't take the Bible literally, and they don't even believe that Christ existed as a person, but they still consider themselves a Christian?
Cool.
I don't think there's a problem with that, because it's pretty much the same range of options that Buddhists have. Once on the old Long Search TV series, where this journalist went to one country after another interviewing members of various religions, and the men interviewed a Zen Buddhist abbot and various other kinds, and he said to the abbot, well, people tell me a lot of things about the Buddha, that he's a historical figure, that he's not. What would you say? And the abbot said, well, for those who need the Buddha to exist, he exists. But for those who don't need him to, he doesn't. And I think that's right. It really is not a matter of did this superhuman superhero once walk on water or even exist. Don't you have a story and a bunch of teachings that are morally challenging and edifying? And when you bracket the hell stuff and all of that, you certainly do. And I can see how somebody would say, yeah, I'm committing myself to that. That's the model I am adopting. And they would be, in my opinion, entirely justified in calling themselves Christians.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. That's a completely different answer than we got from was it David Fitzgerald?
Fitzgerald, yeah.
Yeah. Like very interesting. I'm going to pass you along to Paul here.
Good, Paul. Have at it there, buddy.
All right. Thanks. Hi, Bob.
Hey.
Well, a few of my questions already got asked by the TJ and other people, because I was going to ask about Thor, but at least he won. That's cool. Or at least in the way I phrased it afterwards. But yeah, I was watching some debates with Christians about biblical facts, and especially with Jesus, such as, like, say, the 500 witnesses that were supposedly to afterwards. How much is actual fact that can be verified historically, if anything, about the actual story of Jesus's resurrection? Because that's always pointed to as like this miracle that proves God. So, I mean, the story and the claims toward it, is there any evidence of it? Any, like, this is what people actually said, or is it just hearsay evidence?
Well, I don't even think it's hearsay evidence. I think we're dealing in the Gospels with pure literary creation. Like a lot of Matthew's resurrection story is pretty much copying and tinkering with Mark's up to the empty tomb. Mark has no resurrection appearances. And so Matthew jumps off of that diving board and constructs the rest of the story, strangely enough, from quotes cobbled together from different translations of the book of Daniel. It's almost entirely that. And Luke is the same sort of a thing. When he gets to the empty tomb, he goes off in a whole different direction. Everything happens around Jerusalem, not in Galilee. And the women see Jesus in Matthew, but they don't in Luke. And it's pretty obvious. One is rewriting another and rewriting the Old Testament and possibly rewriting myths of other deities. I think John uses a Pythagoras story, putting Jesus' name on it. Luke uses one about the healing god Asclepius appearing to two disappointed seekers on the way home. And so I think you don't even have third-hand accounts of visions anyone had. I mean, it's not unlikely people would have visions. We know they do, but
Right.
I don't these are even accounts of visions. And the thing in 1 Corinthians 15 is just a bunch of creedal items. That list is not even presented as evidence for Jesus. Nobody seems to notice that if it's a creed, and apologists and critics both say it is, the meter and the organization of it, that means that the resurrection and the appearances are an object of faith, not a basis for faith. And so I just see really nothing to it. And the last thing about the 500 brethren in 1 Corinthians 15, I think this is based on an apocryphal tale we read in the Gospel of Nicodemus, where the 500 are the Roman soldiers that Matthew has Pilate send to guard the tomb. And that I think that this has been penciled into 1 Corinthians 15 late in the first century, and this was the legend he's getting it from. So I just don't think there's any evidence that anybody saw anything.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what
Yeah,
the person
wow.
was referring to. Corinthians 1, or sorry, what you said, Corinthians 15. Yeah, he referred to that as a fact. All these things are a fact, and that's what proved the resurrection. And I asked that because so many people, they're like, oh, well, they rely on these supernatural claims that this is why they follow Christ, because no one else could do that. But I mean, like you just said, they it seems like they pull stories from other ones. So I know there's various ones like Gilgamesh and Sargon of Akkad. Where do you think it all came from, like the various attributes of the Jesus myth? Because if you look at it from mythology, it makes sense that they're just copying and pasting older things into, make it their own religion. So where do you think these various various attributes of Jesus came from, like the various religions in that area?
I think that though there's not a whole lot of evidence, there are a couple of striking pieces of evidence that Jesus is a kind of evolved version of a far more ancient Jewish belief, or Israelite belief, whatever you want to call it, that Yahweh or Jehovah himself was a dying and rising God like Marduk was. These are legends that barely have a toehold in the Bible because of the editing of the Old Testament, but that in his great contest with the dragon of chaos, Leviathan, at the dawn of time, the victory which gave Jehovah the throne as the highest god, the common myth pattern in the ancient Middle East and in India. Well, this struggle with the chaos monster, he was killed but came back to life and defeated the monster. This is told of Baal and Marduk and others, and that Jesus is supposed to be Jehovah making appearances on earth, as he often does in the Old Testament, where Hagar will say, "Have I really seen God and lived to tell it?" Well, this apparently was another one, and Jehovah was already a dying and rising God. The name Jesus, Yehoshua, means Jehovah is Savior. And I'm guessing that this was the native Hebrew version of this widespread dying and rising God, sacred king myth, and it just got historicized at one point. And that was because of church politics. There were many different types of early Christianity, and somebody got the bright idea of saying, well, how about if we claim the copyright by saying that this man actually lived on earth in the recent past and trained disciples who trained our bishops, so we got it from the horse's mouth. You Gnostics and you other kooks are just making it up as you go along, but we've got like our founder in a portrait here, and we know what he said, whereas hitherto people relied on visions and voices. That's what I think is the historical root of it.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I love looking at things. I look at it as mythology, not as fact or religion or anything that's. I look at it more as fables, stories of old time, antiquity, like Norse mythology, things like that. So to know the actual origins of the story in literature and things like that, I thank you very much. And I'm going to hand you off to Joe because we have viewer submissions to ask you.
Thanks, Paul. Good questions. Bob, I got a couple viewer submissions here, questions. So after that, we're going to go to our after show here. Bob, you're more than welcome to come over and hang out with us. We'll bring in a couple more people. It's a pretty fun time if you want. The first one is going to be from our Facebook, Christian David Atty. I probably pronounced that wrong. I probably butchered it. So Christian asks you, does the fact that Troy was a real city and was in fact destroyed means that Achilles and his superpowers really existed?
That's an excellent point. You often read that, the Gospel of John refers to the pavement where the judgment seat of Pilate was, called Gabbatha. Well, that we found that archaeologists have discovered it, or the pool of Bethzatha where Jesus heals the man that was lame, or the portico of Solomon. Hey, these things existed, so I guess Jesus really said everything attributed to him in that gospel and was the Logos incarnate. What? Or the same thing with the book of Acts. Luke says that politarchs ruled this city and Asiarchs ruled that one. Well, all right, I guess that proves that Paul could heal people with his handkerchiefs.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
There's such a thing as historical fiction, and there already was in the 2nd century.
Nice. Also,
Wow.
next question. I got two more questions. If we, just a couple minutes each, that's fine. Like you just did with that one, that's fine. Because we're a little overboard here. Next question is Luca Di Bon. I'm sure I butchered that also. What is it with you guys with these names on Facebook, really? I'm seriously.
What?
We know that the Bible is a fallible book created by men over a long period of time with many known forgeries, additions, and exaggerations. But I find in numerous publications of the historicity of Jesus and early Christianity that historians, both secular and theistic, use those very passages to prove a point in their arguments. Why do we know that those particular verses, or how do we know that those particular verses are reliable?
Well, there's a funny thing with one of the greatest fundamentalist theologians, extremely well-educated Princeton professor, Benjamin Breckinridge Warfield, tried to defend inerrancy and that there are no contradictions and no errors of any kind in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And if you propose one, you'd better be able to jump a whole lot of hurdles. And are you reading that in context? Are you defining the words correctly? Which, of course, naturally, you got to check that stuff out. And he said, finally, if it looks like you've got the Bible in a corner, you'd have to prove that this is the way it read in the original autograph copy. copies, because it's possible that the goof is a result of a copying error somewhere along the line, so early that we don't have any manuscripts of it to check. And I bet that's what happened. He didn't
Yeah.
seem to realize the Pandora's box he was opening, because that sword cuts both ways. That means you could never be sure any passage in the Bible was as originally written. I mean, I don't see how he didn't see that, but that's always a problem. Theoretically, unless there's some kind of contextual or lexical or other problem that makes it look like somebody has screwed up the text in transmission, I too would say, okay, as far as I know, that's what Luke wrote. But how were they in any position to know the truth behind what they're saying? And the sneakiest thing in apologetics, and you mentioned this a moment ago, when people say, well, look at these facts in connection with the empty tomb and so on,
Yeah.
that Joseph of Arimathea had the body buried and the women
Yeah.
came to see him, they found the tomb empty.
Yep.
If that stuff is so, then how do you explain it? The only explanation is that he miraculously rose from the dead. Well, as this great cartoon from the Jesus and Mo cartoon series said, that's like trying to prove that the Emerald City of Oz exists, because otherwise, where does the yellow brick road lead to?
Yeah.
Why do we think these events in a narrative, in a story, are necessarily true? We're taken for granted that those are true in order to prove that the climax that they are written to lead up to is true. It's just incredibly circular.
It's true because it says it's true because it says it's true to get to the point where it's true.
Hey guys, I just want to let all the viewers know that when Bob takes his glasses off, it gets fucking serious, man. So you
Yeah, it
guys better
does.
watch out, man.
It gets real.
It gets
real
it,
quick.
dude. He doesn't mess around when he takes off the glasses. So smart.
Yeah.
All right, the last question for the show tonight is this by Iko Yatka. Hopefully, I hate these names, guys. Change your names, please, so I can pronounce them, please. No, I'm just kidding. Ino Yaka.
You fucking...
You okay, Paul? Okay, good.
Yeah, you Jersey Rhino.
I know. I can't pronounce shit. I'm like you, Paul. You rub off me. Which denomination of Christianity do you find the most harmful, and which do you find the least harmful, quotes, or even helpful? I think you might have hit on this just now, but go ahead.
Well, any kind of Christianity that encourages people not to use medicine and go to doctors, and that's a minority, but a significant one, that's pernicious. I don't think anybody has any bad motives, but it's very dangerous. Theocratic type Christians, the Christian Reconstructionists and the Dominionists who want to make the Bible's laws the laws of the land, if they know what they're saying, if they really are thinking of the actual laws in the Bible, that's dangerous, and you're talking about a Christian Taliban. But I think most of them don't really mean that they want parents to stone disobedient children to death. I don't think they have that in mind. They're just thinking of conservative morality. But those few that do, they would be dangerous, but there's really no chance anything's ever going to happen with them. Even other fundamentalists repudiate them. The kind of the most nourishing, edifying, non-crazy religion that really has an artistic, uplifting aspect to me is the Episcopal Church. I think it has a lot of this great artistic heritage and great poetry and so on. The Roman Catholic Church does too, but it's more totalitarian. You can't really think for yourself there, or you're a bad Catholic. And orthodoxy, interesting, a little too authoritarian for me too, but I love the balance in the Episcopal Church. It's very much like Judaism, where it's the worshiping community, not the checklist of doctrines, that gives the religion its identity. The problem, though, is that easily becomes wishy-washy, like the old joke with a sign on a statue when you come onto a college campus.
Yeah.
It says University of so-and-so, standing for nothing, offending no one. Like that's the danger. It's going to decadent and have nothing to stand for. But still, that'd be my favorite.
Well, thank you very much, there. I appreciate it.
It's
hopefully,
ironic because our skeptic of the week was raised in a family of Jehovah's Witnesses.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So yeah, and he's a southerner. He's like, oh, I'm just like everybody's like, what? Like
you wouldn't believe it if you heard
never
it.
believe
if you heard his voice, you'd never believe he was.
Actually, you know what? I actually
right.
real quick. Actually, I could do it probably right now. Maybe here we go. Just a sample, like a 2-second sample. Here you go.
15 here in a minute. Had made too many videos. Been tired.
I'm a logger.
Yeah, it's the most dangerous, hardest job in the world.
He's
So
a tired logger, but
he's a logger boy. Good.
but he's on our side.
He's on our side. He's for reason and logic. So that being said, guys, Bob, Dr. Robert M. Price, thank you very much, man.
Bob kind of looks like a tired logger himself.
You do a little bit there. God damn.
Damn it, Bob.
But
that's right, Bob.
Bob, thank you very much, and thanks for coming out. This is your second appearance here, and guys, I will follow up with this on the video when it comes out, Bob, and I'll get all your links that pertain to your new books that are coming out. And I do have your website here, which I will put in the video here. It's robertmprice.mindvendor.com, correct? Still same website? Okay, good. So I'll put that in there, and people could be up to date to what you're doing, you know, and you have a couple good books, it seems like, coming out. I'm definitely going to get to Blaming Jesus on Jehovah. I'm definitely getting that. There's no doubt, because your intro statement was awesome. So we're going to do that, and I appreciate your time and hanging out with us tonight. And you're more than welcome. Maybe we'll get some people in here, like Dark Matter in here. Dark Matter 2525. I'm sure you know who he is. Maybe on YouTube, does all the cartoons. Maybe we'll get him in there. You're more than welcome to hang out with us for the next half an hour, 45 minutes. We do an after show.
Yeah.
We just like BS a little bit. So
Please do.
Okay.
And definitely big
Great
thanks
talking
for
to you.
coming.
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
And
great talking to you, Bob.
And I want to thank all our viewers out there. We hit probably one of our best numbers tonight, well over 250 people tonight. And I want to thank you guys, of course, the viewers out there, doing a wonderful job on supporting the show and just keeping us active, I should say. So you guys fucking rock, man. So
Yeah.
Damn it, Bobby.
damn it, Bobby.
Wow.
So yeah, and I want to thank my other host here, TJ, Drew, and Paul. You guys do a wonderful job, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm like, season 3 was really, really good, and season 4 is even going to be better. So I wouldn't do it with another group of people. These guys are great. So I'm
And
a little
God
drunk.
bless Hitch.
Yeah, and God bless Hitchens. So we did a Christopher Hitchens tribute tonight, Bob. So it was really good. So we might talk about him a little bit in the after show, but let's take about a 5-10 minute break here. I'm gonna play some music, and we'll take a little break here, and we're gonna stay here, guys. We're not gonna go to my other channel since we have a good crowd here. We're just gonna stay here. I'm gonna play a couple songs. Then we'll be back in about 10 minutes, and yeah, stick around. We'll be right back. And anybody can come in here, by the way. Anybody that I know. All right, here we go. Let's play.
Except Dark Matter. We hate that bald faggot.
No, don't do that. Don't use that word.
Is he still here?
You might get Dev
Okay.
Show all upset. Stop it. Come on.
All right, fine. Everybody knows I love the queers.
I know. I'm trying to find.
Ask Dev Show.
I can't believe I just had this song ready to go, and I just totally screwed up. Ah, here it is.
Could they hear that?
Yeah, here
Next
we go.
door?
Yeah, they can hear. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad everybody.
All right,
could hear
everybody
that. It was
mute.
awesome.
I know. You're only kidding. That's you.